Education. We will start with a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am requesting a change on the agenda, just due to miscommunication, that the one action item that we have, which is to extend the purchase agreement for ECEC. Mrs. Frank and I have been working with Dr. Skulka and Mr. Wolfson, and so we've been going back and forth several times, send our updates to our attorney, and we had a purchase agreement that had all the notes and comments that the rest of the board members could follow along as to where we went in our negotiations. That didn't get sent out in the packet. We didn't realize, I didn't look at my copy of it in the packet because I had one. So I'm going to ask to have that removed from voting on it today as an action item and as to put it in under discussion items.
We need a motion
Yes.
on it? So moved.
Support.
All in favor, comments, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, Board of Education, items of interest, recognition, or inquiry. Mrs. Frank.
I'd just like to give a big shout out to all the high school students in the district, both St. Clair and Marine City, who came out last Friday and participated in the 3rd annual business competition. We had competitions in presentation skills, interview skills, and entrepreneurship, and these kids did a phenomenal job. So just like to thank them all for participating and all the volunteers that helped make it happen.
Mrs. Frank, is that what used to be Business Professionals of America? Mrs. Beebuck? That was your time period.
That was my time back
I know.
in the day. Yes.
You had my kids.
Yeah, I did.
So
Yep.
that's what it's evolved into.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we've done is we participate at the local level rather than going on to the state and to the national level. It got very costly and pulling kids out of school. So we do it within our district. It works really well.
Awesome.
And it's also required to have, in order for us to get our vocational funds, we have to have some sort of a business club, and we have to have some sort of a competition in order to recoup those dollars. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Dr. Skulka.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate the Marine City High School Science Olympiad team. They finished 3rd at the regional competition this past Saturday. 14 students earned medals, and they have now qualified for the state tournament for the 2nd year in a row. Marine City Middle School also placed very well, with 5 students earning individual medals. St. Clair Middle had 2 individual medalists, and I'm sorry, but I don't have results for St. Clair High quite yet, so I'm sure that they did as well. They did well as well. So congratulations to the teams and the individuals at Science Olympiad. Our last snow day was to be a half day for students and a half day of professional development for teachers. We checked with the Michigan Department of Education, and they are not requiring us to make up the student day because we're not over the limit, but they are requiring us to make up the professional development time for teachers. And so May 12th would have been another similar day, a half day for students and a half day for teachers. That will now be scheduled as a full day professional development for teachers and a full day of no classes for students. So childcare, I know, can be problems on half days, and otherwise it will be a complete no class day for students. We have it posted on our website. I'm sure all of the buildings will be sending out multiple reminders, but I wanted to take advantage tonight of Channel 6 and get that word out and let people start planning for it.
So that's May 12th.
As May 12th. And finally, World Autism Day is coming up, and We always, as a district, recognize World Autism Day, and we look to light it up blue. And this year, it always falls on the 2nd of April, and in this particular case, that is a Saturday. So here in the East China School District, we will light it up blue on Friday, April 1st, and encourage all of our students and staff to wear some blue in recognition of autism awareness. And we know that, well, last year we recognized Tia Reka for her participation in promoting World Autism Awareness Day. And Tia will be participating this year at events at Bell River and Gearing on Friday the 1st. So we look forward to that.
President Bewer, I just have a couple more things that
Yes.
I remembered. When we're talking about the Science Olympiad and all these other people, I don't want to leave anybody out, and I know that Marine City had a bowling team that went to states between our last meeting and this meeting. I know that, I don't know if it's at both St. Clair and Marine City, but they had their choirs participate and receive some awards on that. And I think we neglected to mention that this month is March's Reading Month, and I know it's almost over. I know how big that is, at least in the elementaries, and I just want to thank everybody that helps our district, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an administrator, a custodian, a bus driver, whatever. Thank you for helping make our kids better kids. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Academic Spotlight, Pine River Elementary. Mrs. Rachel Card.
Bell River.
Oh, is it? Bell River. Well, I tell you what, it says Pine River on
An
my...
old one.
That is the new one. That's one I just took off of here.
Good evening, Dr. Skalka, President Bewer, and members of the board. It is my pleasure to present the implementation of Kagan Cooperative Learning Structures at Bell River Elementary School. And joining me are Molly Beaker and Kevin Dibble, two of our Bell River sailors, to present the student perspective. Okay, as you know, from the August board meeting when Dr. Skalka reported about the Kagan training that happened at St. Clair Middle School, East China partnered with RISA to provide training for everyone in St. Clair County, especially East China staff. And all of our buildings had representation from administrators and teachers at the training in August. And that's our Bell River staff participating. And in order for you to understand the power of Kagan Cooperative Learning, I want you to reflect on your own schooling experience. Most of us in this room are familiar with the traditional teaching model, where students sit in rows, teachers ask questions of students one at a time, presenting a lesson. Molly and Kevin, can you share some information about traditional teaching based on your experiences?
I think traditional learning is different than Kagan because everybody gets to participate and there's nobody being left out.
If you're looking at traditional, some people are engaged and some people aren't. There could be kids hiding in the corner and not doing anything, while there's other kids fully engaged and getting the grade they deserve.
Okay, so in this type of a model, some students can opt out or hide, and some of the classes engaged, some might not be. With Kagan Cooperative Learning, students sit in groups, they face one another, they work in teams. When they're asked to do something, they're doing it simultaneously, so they're all called on at the same time. Based on your experiences, Molly and Kevin, what is Kagan Cooperative Learning like?
Kagan Cooperative Learning is sort of like they all get an experience and they students work collaboratively together, so they get the experience they're wanting.
Yeah. And unlike traditional, everybody is engaged. Some kids, nobody can hide, or the teachers will say that, will know and say that they are hiding, and you need to put in the work you need to.
Okay, as we move from the traditional model to the cooperative learning model, we have to change our mindset. So in a traditional model, a good class is quiet. How is that different, Molly, in cooperative learning?
Well, there's like a healthy buzz going around the room, so you know that nobody's getting left out and everybody's like cooperating.
And in the traditional classroom, a teacher says, keep your eyes on your own paper. How is that different in a cooperative learning environment, Kevin?
Well, we're kind of looking at other people's papers, except on a test, of course. We're kind of reflecting off each other's answers and trying to learn from the people at your table.
And in a traditional classroom, students are asked to sit quietly. How is that different in a cooperative learning atmosphere?
Well, sometimes we stand up and we get partners and we walk around a little bit, so we can us and our partners can get engaged.
Okay, we know that standing up oxygenates the brain and movement is good for cognitive functioning.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be thinking, well, cooperative learning is just group work. I've worked in groups before. This is nothing new. Well, I bet all of you have a negative experience with working in a group that you can think of. You were either the person who took charge and did all the work yourself so you would get a good grade, or you may have taken advantage of the person who decided to do all the work to get the good grade. And the whole group got the same grade. What is group work like to you, Molly?
Well, in group work, I don't think everybody would be participating, and it's sort of a waste of time because 2 people could be fighting over it while other people are just goofing off.
How is cooperative learning different, Kevin?
Well, nobody's fighting over the answers. We're all sharing answers, and we're all kind of using the same answers because we're all sharing and we're learning off each other.
So in a group structure, there's no structure. It's where a teacher asks students to go work in a group without giving them any guidelines or sometimes a plan of how to do that. In cooperative learning, there are structures that provide these opportunities for engagement. With cooperative learning, Kagan is based on 4 principles that form the acronym PIES. So there's positive interdependence. As Kevin was saying, we're on the same side, we have the same goals. Individual accountability, as they shared, you can't hide in a Kagan cooperative learning structure. Everyone has equal status, no one is dominating the group, so there's equal participation, and there's simultaneous interaction, which is the beauty of it. Everyone is engaged at the same time by either listening, speaking, or writing. At our training this summer, we were taught 36 of the over 200 Kagan structures, and a structure organizes instruction. It can be used in any subject area, from Spanish to PE to algebra to ELA, and each structure implements the basic principles. We're going to showcase some of the structures that we like to use at Bell River. They've become very popular, and I know that a lot of schools in our district are using these structures as well. So Molly and Kevin are going to act them out a little bit. One is called stand up, hand up, pair up. And so students are asked to stand up, the entire class, and they walk around and they quickly find a partner and do a high five, and they connect and they're ready to discuss. Another structure is called timed pair share, and in these pairs, after a stand up, hand up, pair up, students talk with their partners for a predetermined amount of time, and then they switch roles, and then sometimes they go find new partners. In round robin and rally robin, students are working in groups or partnerships, and students are giving oral responses one at a time. In rally coach, partners take turns coaching each other, and then they switch roles. And then in quiz trade, a popular one at our school, students use vocabulary cards or basic math fact cards or word study cards, and they walk around the room, partner up, they quiz each other on the cards, and then they switch cards and then find new partners. So they're practicing basic skills and content. You can come back here. So what I've learned just from observing is the culture in our building is changing. When you walk into a classroom at Bell River in which Kagan is being implemented, you see desks pushed together with numbers and letters like you see in the upper right-hand corner. Teams are reconfigured every 6 weeks. When a structure is happening, everyone is engaged, there's accountability, no one is hiding or not participating. There's a lot of celebration for success, and students are working in competition rather than, are working in collaboration rather than competition or isolation. Within these structures are social skills. So while students are working with the curriculum, they're also mastering social skills that are necessary for success in the world. Social skills are built into each Kagan structure, and there are roles that students have to do within the structure, and there are praises that they give each other that help them to be work collaboratively. Teachers often model these social skills by modeling the structure in front of the class with another student. There's a lot of positive reinforcement by the teacher through coaching, and about a third of the way through a structure, the class stops and they reflect on what they're doing well and what they need to do differently in order to execute it better. Some of the ways that we develop these social skills are through gambits and praises. So there are some responses. We really explicitly teach students how to thank partners, how to listen to a partner, and be accountable by providing either a summary or telling a favorite point that the partner made. There are also praises at the end that really builds that team atmosphere and collaboration. And Molly and Kevin are going to demonstrate some of the praises.
You rock. I'm digging it.
You're great.
Through observing in classrooms since September, I noticed 57 of the items in that word cloud. Those are social skills that I'm seeing students demonstrate in the classroom. Those are skills that we don't have built into our curriculum, but they're so essential for success in today's world. They're desired by all employers in every field, and they really foster teamwork, collaboration, and leadership. What are the benefits? Kagan was developed in the early 80s, so there are decades of research that support it. It is proven to increase academic achievement, engagement, develop thinking skills, develop leadership and social skills, and increase a student's liking for school and the content in which a student is studying. And Kagan structures work well with adults too. These are my students. These are my teachers at a staff meeting participating in a roundtable consensus structure. We also use Kagan structures in our PD sessions too. It's a great way for teachers to be engaged at the same time. We hosted Tom Finnegan on March 7th and 8th in the district. He visited several schools and observed teachers and provided them personal feedback and coaching. And we were fortunate at Bell River to have him join our staff meeting to provide feedback and answer questions. And you have seen the pictures. Now I want to show you the short video of cooperative learning in action. That concludes our presentation. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments?
I do.
Yes.
Rachel, do you have like certain subjects and certain grades that, say for instance, like fourth grade science does something and third grade ELA or whatever, or can the teachers decide individually what they want to do and where they want to do it?
They decide based on how it fits into whatever subject they're teaching. And
Good.
every grade level and every subject, teachers are using it in a variety of ways.
So is this going to continue on? Because I know that you mentioned something about you only hit on, what, maybe 35 you said out of 200 different types of strategies or whatever. Will this continue on? Are you going to do a training this summer again?
We have partnered with RISA. We will again host the training at St. Clair Middle, August 1st through the 5th.
Okay.
And so we will
Good.
continue to keep working this out throughout the district.
Awesome. These guys were great.
Thank you.
I have just,
Thank you.
I have just one comment. I'd like to compliment Mrs. Card on, the Detroit Red Wings are now starting to come back into our elementary schools. The people that have been here for a while, they know, and they can come in every 5 years. They can go back to a school. And they came in last Friday and did their presentation at Bell River Elementary, and they continue to relate to me how well-mannered our kids are in this district. Across the board, they do 150 schools a year. He says, whenever he comes to this school district, he's amazed. He did say, though, usually, you must have very competitive teachers. Usually, the teachers will let the kids win in the shootout. Your teachers didn't.
We are competitive.
But thank you for what you're doing in that school and to all our elementary schools and
That makes me
schools.
proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, kids.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Kevin.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Motion is needed for the approval of minutes. Regular Board of Education meeting February 22nd, 2016. Special Board of Education meeting February 29th, 2016. Approval of payment of bills, financial statement, schedule of investments.
Before we make a motion, can I bring up something for discussion after the motion is made?
We have to have a motion and a second, then we can
Or
go to
instead
discussion.
of, I was gonna pull some things off, but instead of doing that, could I just leave it all in the same motion?
Okay, make your comments.
Okay.
So moved. Support.
Okay. My couple of issues have to do with the bills on page 4, which would be, I think, page 14 on our, or excuse me, page 13. At the very bottom, under Hometown Shopper LLC. And I believe we all received an email today from Dr. Skalka in regard to this issue about the election, like spending on the election. What I have a problem with this is that there was a letter sent out and it was paid for by taxpayers. And so my question is, was this under the contract that is that covered? Is that part of the 10 or 9,000 in the contract? Like if the bond fails, then that's part of the 9,000, or is that not part of?
This is informational material that we sent to voters so that they would have information prior to the election and getting them thinking, allowing them to review the information and providing them the opportunity to then ask questions and contact us if they had any questions. This is not part of any contract with anyone else. This is just part of our due diligence in informing our voters.
But this is under the this would be from the general fund?
At the present time, yes, but when the bond proposal passes, then bond funds can reimburse and pay for this expense.
But if the bond does not pass, then that's.
Then we have, yep, you're right, you're correct, and then we have done what I believe is our obligation to inform our voters of factual information.
But my issue is that under the referenced, under the policy that you referenced in the email, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, but hold on just 1 second, I'll find it. But under purchasing, which is our policy 6320, obviously you don't have to go out for bid for something that's under the $10,000 threshold, which that mailing was only $5,203.04.
Actually, there was two mailings involved in that figure, not one. So,
As I shared, mailing costs.
But as I shared with you, each individual mailing would be treated as a separate expenditure.
But it's one expenditure in here.
It's the payment of the vendor is the same vendor was used, but it was two different mailings.
But my question, in here it says that the superintendent is authorized to purchase all items within budget allocations.
Mhm.
The board did not allocate that money, and that's the problem that I have, is that I don't understand how someone can take unilateral action without the board's approval.
The superintendent has approval up to a limit of $10,000 for expenditures within the district before he has to come to the board for approval.
Correct, and the other aspect of this is if we get into this, this issue, and again, this is a consent agenda, which I'm not sure provides for discussion. If we didn't, we can pull it, but it makes sense to talk about this so that everyone's aware. But if we get involved in seeking out board approval for every purchase or all purchases, we're going to grind to a halt in terms of doing business.
Well, it's not within our budget allocations, though. That's my point. And I know it's only $5,000 out of a $30 million budget, but still, I think that this is...
I don't mean to be disrespectful. It is a $40 million budget.
Well,
So just for clarity and factual
it's
basis.
between 30 and 40
so-
million. It's not
and-
above 40 million. but
And again,
that's
there's
besides the point.
the informing our public of what they're being asked to vote on is a direct I would say, duty once the board took action to put this ballot proposal to the people. By doing the action to put the ballot proposal out there, we then had a subsequent obligation to inform people of what the ballot proposal contained.
Which there was
And-
inaccurate information in there, but that's besides the
But you-
point. But my other issue is with the minutes. On pages 4 and 7, which is item 1 and 2 of item A. I guess I should have started with that, but the thing that I have a problem with in these on page 5 under reports, where it says Dr. Skalka presented the board with information on PA 269, going on and on. I don't have a problem with if you're going to like put things like that in there, like summarizing, but the thing that I have an issue with is if somebody else comments on it, which I did, which was about, I guess, correcting the math that's been put out there with the $100,000 number, which is not accurate. That's, well, I mean,
Well,
it
is accurate.
Well, for math's sake, but not for somebody that the average homeowner owns a $150,000 home
Well,
in the district.
correct, and you know, I know we're debating, but I can't allow incorrect information to just hang out there for anyone viewing this. As we said, you said the math was incorrect, I said it was, and you confirmed that the math was correct. Your statement now is that not everyone owns a $150,000 home. That is also correct, and that is why when we presented information last month, we talked about the fact that we had a chart that showed anywhere from a $60,000 to a $120,000 home, and we showed the exact formula to use for people to calculate their first-year cost, which was their taxable value, which you can find on your assessment that has come home, I think, within the last month, your taxable value times .0011. Or, if you'd like to do the mental math of it, and again, this is more for the folks watching, if you'd like to just kind of mentally calculate it without going to your assessment, you take what you think your home could sell for, if you're not going to look at your statement of assessment, and say my house can sell for $60,000. Well, then your taxable value is roughly half that. That's $30,000 times the .0011 means you take 3 times 11 and you get $33. If you had a $200,000 home, your taxable value would be approximately $100,000, so it'd be 10 times 11 or $110. So all the information that we've provided has been factual and accurate.
But they've been facts that are slanted because the thing, no, but you put the math for the lowest number, but you did not put the math for the average of the 20 years, which is what I believe is important.
Well,
out there.
there is 20, well, that's incorrect as well.
No, it's not.
Because we showed a chart that gave the actual millage, we showed the chart for the actual millage. I showed, not in the letter, I understand that.
Correct.
We can't put, we weren't going to send home pages and pages of information. But here in this room and in other groups, we've shown the chart that shows the actual millage over the 20 years. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find 2.02 in any of those years because that is the average of all the years. So for us to put that average dollar figure out there, that wouldn't really be reflective either. You want to calculate each year. And of course, I'm going to have to put in the plug, because I always do, that within the first 5 years of this proposal, the remaining debt that we have, the remaining bond debt that we have gets paid off, so that in the last 15 years of this 20-year bond, taxes will be less than they are today.
But that's not guaranteed. That's not guaranteed, because if Detroit Edison closes, which it will.
You can't say if and then it will. You have no knowledge that that's going to happen.
You can't say that it's for sure going to be lower in 5 years.
The millage rate for the last 15 years of this proposal is less than it is right now.
Nope.
I can say that for a fact. The millage rate is less for the last 15 years of this proposal than it is right now.
You can't take a what-if scenario that the largest employer in our community is going to go under. You can't take that assumption
But that's not the only
in
assumption.
calculating someone's property taxes going up or down.
That's not the only assumption, and it's also people's property going up as well, their property values, and that's another consideration.
I mean, if we gave an example between 60,000 and 120,000, are there homes in this community that are worth 1.5 million? Yes, there are. You can't put out a spreadsheet for every single possible factor of a house value. But if you put out the calculation for anybody to get there, that's what counts.
But I think that putting out a mailer like that when we have social media, we have the internet, the things that are free, I don't see why we were spending taxpayer money to convince them to raise their taxes.
Because I will not label an entire group of people, Trustee Ridgely, and say, retirees don't use social media. A lot of retirees use social media. But a lot of retirees have also spoken personally to me about why hasn't this not appeared in the newspaper yet? And the majority of folks don't even subscribe to the paper, but those folks do. We are going to inform our public in every single possible way we can, which includes social media, which includes our district website, which includes a mailing, which includes the newspapers. Because everyone consumes information differently. And for us to ignore one sector would be irresponsible. And we are going to inform them through every possible
why not
means.
Television and radio?
We have produced a video. That video is currently on our website, and that video will be running on Channel 6.
Not all people have cable. But I mean, that's the point that I'm making, that you're.
Not all people have internet.
But I mean, that's the point that I'm
That is,
making, that you're making. It makes no sense.
you're making my point, is that we need to approach
No,
this.
I'm
We need to
Yes,
approach
you
this
are.
in every
No.
single
Well,
method
anyway,
of media.
you can continue being condescending, but it's not going to work. People aren't going to buy it, so, but anyway.
Alan, will you quit undermining the board and what we're trying to
I'm
do?
not undermining
We're trying to be positive. We are trying to do what we think is best for our district and for kids. And every single time you undermine, you nitpick, you pick. This is minutes. This is paying of bills. Yes, he spent $5,000 on mailers because my mother, who, God bless her soul, who's now dead, never knew what a computer was. My brother who lives with me, he was glad to get the mailer. We're trying to hit everybody. And I'm really tired of you trying to make us look like we're the idiots, and you're going to be the savior for
You're
all
doing a good job
the
of that
taxpayers.
yourself.
All right.
No.
Wow.
The expenditure was well within the budget of the direction of the superintendent, and had he gone over the $10,000 mark, he would have come to the board for approval. We did not. It was well within the expenditure guidelines. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is recognition of persons wishing to address the board. No green cards? Okay. Reports, superintendent report, Dr.
I think Mr. Wondowski would like to say.
Pardon?
I just had a card, thanks to speak.
Yes.
Eric Longuski. Eric Longuski, East China Education Association President, had no intention of saying anything today. Don't have 24 hours to think about it, but I should. Completely uncalled for just happened. Ms. Beebuck, I appreciate what you do. Your comments were spot on. You're doing the best you possibly can. That last little comment to come out is an embarrassment. Does not reflect on the rest of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent report, kindergarten roundup update.
Mr. Mayor, you want somebody?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gotta open it up.
Good evening. James Conrad, I'm a homeowner in the city of St. Clair. I wanted to make some comments on the potential sale of the middle school. I believe you all got an email from me regarding that, just so that I could put it out there. The potential sale to this developer that can't buy this property without taxpayer dollars, he would be at the mercy of whoever funds those dollars to him and what they want him to do with the property. You know, we heard a lot of rumors at first what he was going to do with the property. It looked like it would fit in good with the neighborhood. We were all for it. Now reading Friday's article in the Times-Herald, 50 to 80 apartments in that $60,000 or 60,000 square foot structure equals out to about 700 to 1,000 square feet per apartment. And that's certainly not high-end loft living or apartment living. I just, you know, as a homeowner in that neighborhood, it's zoned low-density, single-family housing. I just wondered how an apartment building of that size would affect the community, our property values, and I just ask that you look out for us as taxpayers who purchased homeowners in that area. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kindergarten roundup update, Dr. Skolka.
Yes, kindergarten roundup, March, I believe, 7 and 8 it was, and I provided the board in an update the figures and the projections based on those figures. We had relatively the same number of students come to kindergarten roundup as the previous year. There are three different projections, projecting models. We had 191 students come to kindergarten roundup. That was about considerably more than 2 years ago, but 9 less than last year. Using that 191, we have three different projection models. One is the Stanford projection that was done as part of the bond proposal. That's the commercially prepared proposal. That comes in at the lowest number of projected students. Let me see if I got it. Yep, 245. All the way up to what our local projection is 258. And if it is 258, that would be exactly what we had this year in the kindergarten. So we're hoping, obviously, that that's what comes to pass, that we have the same number of kindergartners, because that indeed might start telling us that we've reached stability. And that would be a positive thing. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I did want to share publicly that kindergarten roundup, though the event, we had many, many volunteers. It was an awesome event. But if you still did not come to kindergarten roundup and you have a kindergartner who will start next year, you don't have to wait until August or September or right before school starts. Please come in, let us get you registered, and make sure that everything is set for you and your young student come in September.
Comments or questions? All right. Thank you. Information discussion items. Middle school U.S. history textbooks. Mrs. Woolman.
Good evening. Oh, that's fast. So this is that time of year where we start to overhaul what we're offering and we start planning and scheduling for next year. And as part of that process, we also look at some of our resources. And for the last couple years, the 8th grade teachers, Catherine, they're 13 years old, they're 14 years old, and we send them out for rebinding every year. And so this year, throughout the course of this year, we piloted a new resource with our 8th graders. And we are lucky that in the Boy Scout group over there, we have quite a few 8th graders who can personally attest to what they've been doing at the end if you need it. But Mrs. Card mentioned earlier that when we did 8th grade US, we all had traditional instruction. We learned about, they lined up in rows in the American Revolution, they shot at each other. Our 8th graders this year went to the gym. They lined up facing each other with dodgeballs in the center. They played a 5-minute game of dodgeball, and then they made the comparison to the American Revolution. And so we have had success with that product this year. And so we are looking at a new textbook for 8th grade history and all the accompanying resources for the teachers. We are looking at a new textbook for a new course, Advanced Placement Chemistry, a new textbook for a new course, Advanced Placement Psychology, and there will be a 4th text, but I'm going to wait and bring that one to you in the summer when we have done a little bit more research on which one we want to look at. So as I mentioned, we've already identified the need. Our current books are 15 years old, they are falling apart, and they don't have any web-based resources for our students. And so in this day and age, some of our families live a little bit farther out. They can't make the trek back when Johnny forgets his textbook. So we want to make sure that we have something so that they can access it, phone, computer, etc. As we've looked to implement 2 new AP courses next year, we look to purchase the materials that will best support those courses. We are recommending this evening the resources that are recommended by the College Board. So these are nationally normed textbooks used in high schools across the country that will best prepare our students to take that AP exam in the spring and hopefully earn the college credit that goes with it. Some of the factors anytime we're choosing a new textbook are the presentation of topics and the content expectations. So do they line up with state standards? Do they present them in a way that is age and grade appropriate? Are they current materials? So I gave the dodgeball example. Are we reaching the students with simulations and things that they can understand? Are they user-friendly? How do they integrate with technology? We know that that's a big deal for our students today, being able to access information quickly and from anywhere. The real-world connections, the quality of the resources and support material, as well as I mentioned before, the alignment to state and national standards. So with that said, tonight, and Kelly has the books right here on her table, should you like to give them a quick look through. We are asking you to consider History Alive, the U.S. Through Industrialism, with a 2017 copyright from TCI. TCI is the company that we currently use for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 11th grade social studies. So this will just continue that vertical alignment. We'll have it now from 5th through 8th grade. So that is a company. We would look to purchase 100 physical textbooks, 335 electronic textbooks, and 4 teacher textbooks and electronic resources. That would give every student a textbook while they're in the classroom. There would also be some additional ones for students who have 504 or IEP plans to keep in their home, or students who don't have internet access. And then for all the other students, there would be an individual subscription that they could log in from their phone, iPad, tablet, home computer, library, wherever they can get that access. Those would have a total cost of approximately $26,395. For Advanced Placement Chemistry, we are looking for the Chemistry AP edition by Zumdahl. The copyright on that one is 2014. It is the 9th edition that we are looking at. Again, with a similar structure, 35 hardcover texts, so texts for the students to use physically at the school with a few extra, 85 electronic textbooks, 85 lab manuals, and 1 teacher resource set. That is a number in flux, as the high schools are still finalizing their numbers. This is my best estimate as of tonight. We will not be making this purchase until you have given me the go-ahead and until scheduling is done, so that we are purchasing with the most accurate number. So this is our best estimate as of tonight.
So Catherine, I just have a question.
Sure.
1 teacher resource, so that means it's only going to be at 1 high school?
This particular course is going in at St. Clair High. The course that I'm bringing to you in June, AP Spanish, will be going in at Marine City High. Each school chose a course that they best fit their population's needs.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
The next one, Advanced Placement Psychology. We are asking you to consider the Myers Psychology for Advanced Placement. It's the colorful one in the middle here. This book is going in, this course is going in at both high schools, so we are looking at 70 physical student textbooks with the online resources to accompany them. I apologize that it doesn't say that. 2 teacher resource sets with a grand total of $10,004.22. Any questions?
How long do the electronic subscriptions last?
They are, I believe, 6 years on the AP, 7 years on the TCI. And when you have an electronic subscription for that long, every time they update the textbook or any of the resources, you automatically get that update as part of your current purchase agreement. So it will keep us current for a good chunk of time here.
And we allocated this money at the start of the budget planning for this?
We allocated this money in the curriculum and instruction budget. So each year we allocate a certain amount to elementary, middle, and high school, and then we borrow from each other as we need it. The high school will be borrowing a little bit from the middle school to put this in, but the middle school borrowed from the high school when we did math books a few years ago. So we're calling it even after this year.
Thanks, Catherine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Chartwell's contract renewal. Dr. Skolka?
Yes, and Ms. Thrift, and if you haven't known, Ms. Wegler's got married, and she's now Mrs. Thrift.
Oh.
Okay, in case that she might help me out here, but 2 years ago now, we rebid the food service contract. A 5-year contract was awarded, but the state of Michigan requires us to annually renew that contract, even though you have a 5-year pricing agreement with the vendor. So we just bring it to you now as information. It will be there next month for approval, and this is the second of 4 one-year renewals. Okay.
Just a question. It's been a while since we've seen as a board, what our cost of lunches and everything are. Are we still very competitive in our district and in the county, I mean, more so than our district?
Yeah, in the county. Again, Tina, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we brought to you 2 years ago, a 3-year plan for the required increases in school lunches. And required because we have to have a certain threshold that we charge for full lunch based on what we get in return for free and reduced lunches.
Isn't that state mandated?
That is state mandated, and so usually we try to keep that to the lowest number possible in terms of an increase, a dime or 15 cents. And it has kept, and what I remember was when we presented that a year or two ago, we were still within the bottom half of school lunches in the county.
Okay. When will do we have another increase coming up? Thank you.
Good evening. The next fiscal year, 17-18, will be our final year in our 3-year progression, and that is scheduled for a 5-cent increase.
5-cent increase. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. The added item on the information discussion is the contract purchase agreement for ECEC. I know that this is all the contract you had in your packet, but it just didn't have all the notes and comments on it that Jeannie and I were apprised to. So we just want to put it out there. We will put this back on our agenda for an action item, but I just didn't want to not show you the progression of how we got to where we're at without looking at all the notes.
I apologize for the confusion, President Bewer. I put the document in the board packet. That was the final version that was agreed upon by Mr. Wolfson because we needed to act on that version as opposed to any earlier version. So,
no, it was.
The draft dated 3/4/16, I believe, does not have everything in it that we discussed when we all met, Mr. Beeler. Do you want me to go through my questions on this? Okay, so on the first page, in regards to the deposit, we discussed that in keeping with the previous purchase agreement, that we would not require a deposit, but we felt that once the inspection period was over and that he removed his inspection contingencies at that time, we would want a substantial deposit. I think we agreed on $25,000.
Yeah. The inspection period, I believe, lasts for the entirety of the 190 days, and it was my understanding that he would either purchase the building or not, and then it would be done. There would be no then further opportunity to pay a deposit, and then he was, at that point in time, it was due, the whole $250,000 was due.
So where does it actually state that? Because that was not my understanding. I mean, the discussion that the three of us had was that we were going to increase the deposit amount, correct?
That is correct. And then in speaking with him, we discussed the fact that he has 190 days to get everything done that he needs to get done, and at that point in time, he either buys it or not.
Okay, but that was not relayed back to us.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, then the other question I have is on page 4, the first paragraph, survey. We have inserted there, the seller and the purchase shall each pay 1/2 the cost of the survey. It was my recommendation that he was already paying for the survey. It was just my recommendation, and I didn't really want it included in the contract, but it was the thought that if for some reason this deal did not go to closing, then at that time, the district might want to go forward and offer to pay for half of the survey so that we would hold it in our possession, which would be a benefit to us if we entered into an agreement with somebody else. So
you were thinking on the fact that it did not go through?
right. I mean, we don't want to pay for it now, but
Sure.
if the deal doesn't close, then we ought to offer to pay for half of it so that we would have possession of the survey. It was just kind of a discussion
Sure.
at the time, not necessarily something that I felt should be entered into the contract.
Okay.
Can I ask hypothetically, without it in the contract, if we offer, is he under any obligation to accept that?
No, he's not.
Okay.
But why wouldn't he? Because it's not going to be any use to him. He's going to recoup half of his costs.
Sure. Okay.
The other thing, okay, so here is the other thing. This is on page 5, when we talk about the first right of refusal for Eddy Elementary. I know we talked about cleaning some of this verbiage up, but the one thing that I had asked to be stricken from this was that if we should receive an offer, that we're going to notify the seller, we're going to notify the purchaser, Mr. Wolfson, in writing, and also include a copy of the offer. That's not something that we should do. In my opinion, my background, I mean, we don't want to disclose a new offer. I mean, it's just not something that's disclosed. It's not really his business.
You were saying to just disclose the knowledge of an offer.
Just the knowledge. We don't
Okay.
want to give him a copy of the offer because first of all, the offer hasn't been negotiated, but
Right.
it's still not fair to the second guy in line to disclose his offer. It's just not common practice.
Okay. So just the acknowledgement to him that we have an offer on.
Right.
Okay.
We'll notify him in writing, but we don't want to include a copy of the offer, my opinion.
Where does that say that, Jeannie?
It's towards the middle.
Oh, okay.
And then the other
Page 5.
thing in here, we talked about, and I don't see it in here, maybe it's something that we just want to talk about this evening, is the last line in that same paragraph where we added in the seller reserves the right to list or otherwise market the Eddy property for sale. We definitely want to put that in there. But we need to talk about, at that time, are we going to require him to exercise his option? That's something that we should discuss.
I thought we had a timeline.
Well, we said 10 days. He came back with 30, and I think 30 is ridiculous because now you got your second offer waiting 30 days for the first guy to, make a decision. I mean, if we want to meet him halfway and say 15 days, but I think typically in a residential transaction, it's 72 hours, so that's 3 days, not, a full 30 days.
Okay.
So those are just my comments. Well, he
Dr.
wants
Skalka,
Yes.
is this the same, are these two packets the same thing you sent us in the email today?
They are.
Okay. I wanted to really quickly, I believe it was Mr. Conrad that came up. I don't believe he's still here anymore, but I just wanted to respond. I agree with him on the zoning thing, but that's not something the school district controls, so that's something the city would have to deal with. That's not really our problem. But I understand his concern, though. I mean, I'm cognizant of the people in that area that are concerned. I have a question about the Eddy elementary thing, the first refusal. I apologize for my ignorance because I wasn't at the meeting a year ago when we made this decision. So my question is, why was that put in there? Was that something that he asked for, or was that something that we?
He asked for it.
He requested it.
He requested it, and also one of the things that a school district, in the event that they were to close a facility, one of the things they would want to do is to reestablish use of that facility as soon as possible, not to let it sit idle so that mechanical systems go to heck, that you are maintaining some level of utilities, and it's a cost to the general fund, and also you'd be responsible for any vandalism or repair. So fortunately, the district has had good luck in either selling or leasing facilities such as Washington Elementary, and the opportunity to have someone interested in a building that may at some point be closed is an important thing to have, as opposed to, again, letting it sit for however long.
I agree. But I have two concerns, and that would be the purchase price, which a year ago I could have seen why we wanted to just kind of get rid of it because it's a drag on the budget. But at the same time, I think since then, I think that it may have appreciated a little bit more. I'm not a realtor, so I don't know, but I mean, I think there's potential for the property to sell for more than what it's selling for. And
The ECEC property?
Correct.
Or the Eddy property?
Both. But
Well, because there is, I just want to make sure, there is no price
Sale of-
established.
right.
There is no price established with Eddy.
Correct.
Okay.
But in 2012, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was put on the market for $1 million.
And yes, it was. I only snicker because they got no interest.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But yes.
But I think the concern that I have is that I believe this has been talked about for about a year now, and with all due respect, the person that's interested in the property has been trying to get these grants for the past year. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but I assume. And so my thing is, I think we should just put it back on the market, and if he gets the grants, then I don't know if he's able to do that without a purchase agreement, but
Well, why would he want to?
Yeah.
Why would he want to go out and spend all this money and time and efforts trying to procure funding if he doesn't have a contract in place?
But it's just, I see it as another year that it's going to be a drag on the
Well,
budget.
this is actually, we're redoing this contract because he couldn't get the original grant funding that he wanted, so now he's seeking alternative funding, and so we needed to enter in a new contract because the other one had expired. So now we need to give him time to do his due diligence to see if he can procure these funds.
But the people that he's looking at won't even consider it unless he's got a purchase agreement on the building.
I think we gave him a chance the first time, and I would like to just,
I don't really anticipate that there are people out there chomping at the bit for this property. We've got somebody here who's interested. I think we need to pursue it until he's no longer interested, until it's sold.
I have made it clear to Mr. Wolfson, and it was part of the article in the Times-Herald, that in the event that the building does not close within the 190-day time limit here, we will relist the property.
I think the other aspect of this, from Mrs. Frank and speaking with him and looking at, this gentleman knows how to do what he's looking at doing. He does it time in and time again. He purchased the place in Marine City, in Port Huron, pardon me, and is doing the same thing up there. He's from the Royal Oak, Birmingham area down there. And he showed us some of the facilities that he has taken just downright leveled, almost buildings you would think he would level and turn them into beautiful additions to the communities. And so he knows what he's doing. He's just trying to fund it as best he can. I think the additional 6 months that we would allow him to do his due diligence for this new type of historical funding, as Mr. Distra said, there's not people banging at our door, and we can always, look at an offer coming in, but we would make he's got 190 days to see if he can come up with this funding.
it's just I saw that from one of the updates from, I believe it was around a year ago, Kramer Realty was interested in selling the property, and then they weren't afterwards.
I don't believe that to be the case. Ms. Thrift and I toured two different realtors through that facility. The first one wouldn't touch it, and their reason was the amount of money that a seller would have to put into it. They thought was too much in order to rehab it. And the second realtor was only interested in it if we would have done it via auction. And obviously via auction we could have set a minimum bid, but we would have had no idea whether it would have sold or not.
Oh, okay. The update that I'm talking about is from January 23rd, 2015, and it says Mr. Kramer and his associate were impressed with the condition of the building and gave us hope that they would be willing to work with us. And then, so I guess maybe maybe I read that wrong. It says that they weren't interested afterwards.
Yeah, they would never put it under contract with us.
Yeah,
But I think that I just think it's something. I agree to disagree on that. I understand your position on going forward, but I just think it should go back on the market.
If you would.
We'll get that cleaned up and get it out again, and we'll go from there.
We set up a meeting with you and
That's fine.
Mrs. Frank and I, and we'll
Absolutely.
look at these couple of things that we're talking about. All right. Next items for the next board meeting are Winter Athletic Awards. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.